For context, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second time we meet with Sara. The first time we had a great conversation about American politics, what it means for the region, how Sara's first moment experiencing viral fame,
Virulence.
Viral
for an incident
Yes.
in Harvard,
We sounded-
including like the Mezze, what was like the
Israeli-
Mezze festival.
Israeli Mezze.
Israeli
Yes,
Mezze.
which is like a part one, which we will be releasing only on audio.
Yeah.
Okay, just to mention that, get it out of the way. And we're very lucky to have her again today as well. And now we can talk about the mafia in charge.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back, as I was saying, I'm gonna repeat again. As we were talking earlier, that all the political parties involved had knowledge about the ammonium nitrate being stored at the port, and all of them had the capability of removing it over the 5, 6, 7 years that was stored over there. So regardless of who you support, they're all to blame for this catastrophe.
That's true. But what I want to know is anyone ever going to be held accountable? Or is this going to be another case of like the Rafi Hariri tribunal, and it's going to be years and years spent and a lot of money spent with no...
A lot of people making money as well.
So I have a different way of looking at the situation, and I think I haven't really verbalized it before. So this is going to be a first, as I verbalize this exact thought process that I have.
We're getting it exclusive.
Yes. Woo, scoop. No. To divorce the explosion from the entire system that's been in place for 30 years as like a catastrophe in of itself, and as the only thing that has made us go really upset about the way that things are run in the country, I think is just a small percentage of the entire story. So, but if you marry it to the past 30 years and the day-to-day of how things are run in this country, it cannot be divorced from it. So when we ask, will we get retribution for the explosion? It's impossible if you don't get retribution for the 30 years as well. And you won't get retribution in the way it's understood in developed countries, but you will get retribution by getting rid of this political class. That is the only salvation.
Indirectly.
Because asking people who are themselves harnessing the power of a mafia protocol and asking justice from them is an impossible task. And then when we say, well, someone needs to bring them to justice, it's not going to be the justice of the country, because the justice of the country is a mirror of that mafia, oligarchy, militia. So I have said on several occasions on different TV stations that it needs to be an international inquiry, an international investigation. And even the international investigation comes with its own limitation. But if we really are talking exclusively about the explosion, the only type of response one could get would be through an international inquiry. The issue is that a lot of people are just like, yeah, but it's going to be like the Rafi Hariri, and it's
they
going to
tampered with evidence.
and and also it's divorced. It's more divorced than the justice system in Lebanon, but it's not entirely divorced because as you just said, there will be politicking and tampering and lobbying, but that's not the thing I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is that if this explosion involved a third party that is non-Lebanese, a neighbor, I'm not going to say a specific neighbor, but a neighbor.
Cyprus.
Right? Yes, like Cyprus. Exactly. Will they be able to get to the bottom of it? There's also a question about it. That's why I would usually say, but it'll be 60% of the truth, which is better than 0% of the truth. Hala. It is very important to remind everybody how the justice system is run in this country. There are judges in this country, which is Lebanon, who are very professional, very judicious, independent, and true soldiers of the law. they don't occupy high positions and they don't occupy influential decision-making posts. They are, if you occasionally have a lawsuit and you're lucky enough to get a judge like that, you on an individual level might be getting away with like great justice. But when it's matters that involve the state and matters that involve the oligarchs, hell no. They literally, out in the open, it's not hush-hush under the table. It's out in the open, nominate those judges. And when those judges were, if one of those judges were to resign, they go first resign at that politician's office, which is unheard of.
Yeah. They're basically like an extension of the political class that's running the
Exactly.
country.
So you go to your boss first.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have a boss,
Yeah.
Mr. or Mrs. Judge. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have it.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be an independent, law enforcing, justice abiding, justice enforcing agent of the state.
It's like
right?
the judge himself is like another lawyer representing this political class.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he's supposed to be the person that's neutral who takes a decision whether
Absolutely.
that guy is guilty or not.
Yes.
And it's like that's just like one of it's like it baffles me. Like I always find out in this country the different levels of corruption. Like there's just so much.
That's exact. That brings me back to what I was saying earlier, which is how can you divorce the explosion from such stories?
Yeah.
Like that's like the explosion is really an awful result of having had these people in charge for 30 years. But it's not supposed to be the wake-up call that makes us go, oh, things are really going badly in this country because they knew about ammonium nitrate and they didn't say anything. Do you know how many instances of ammonium nitrate in a figurative sense that exist in this country that they know about and they're not coming to terms with?
We will never know.
I mean, there's just...
Insane.
There's an insane number. I mean, I am somebody who is not on the inside, but because I am very much involved in politics and because due to the nature of my work, I had to visit those offices. And I can tell you just based on what I saw, and again, I'm not an insider, just based on what I saw, you might be just like, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe it can be that bad.
In terms of how much ammonium nitrate
And you're
is
talking
stored
about
through
this ammonium nitrate being
In
just
the
in Beirut or all around Lebanon?
Figurative sense. In the figurative sense.
No, I mean in terms of like how incompetent,
yeah.
how ignorant, how corrupt, and how
Dangerous.
dangerously, let me weigh this word, like let me find really the surgical word, how dangerously apathetic they are, disconnected. The ignorance is shameful in its best case scenario, and it's criminal and murderous in its worst case scenario. In any case scenario, it should be brought to justice, not because of the explosion, just because of how the country's run.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
No,
But
go ahead.
I just wanted to continue one sentence to go back to the justice. We have something called Constitutional Council, Majlis al-Dasturi, okay? It's occupied by very influential judges who are supposed to be holding any constitutional clause, like they're supposed to hold the state accountable to the constitution, right? And they are al-Majlis al-Dasturi, and they, for instance, will be those who go, if there is a dispute in the elections, like it goes to the Constitutional Council, and the Constitutional Council, because of its transparency and because of its professionalism, will be able to really give weight to justice to the Lebanese citizen. They nominate those judges.
Not even surprised at this point.
وبيقولوها بالأخبار. They say it in the news. They say مثلا الرئيس ميشيل عون عين فلان الفلاني والرئيس سعد الحريري مثلا انه قرر ان يعني imagine but I go back to the idea also that us as Lebanese citizens, no matter how educated we may be in terms of like different degrees, are not politically educated. Yet we all have political opinions.
But
And that is a major issue. Because that education shouldn't actually come just in schools, right? Like for instance, what is the difference between a member of parliament and a minister? In terms of like salahiyat, in terms of what he or she should be able to do and what is expected of them to do, right? It's completely muddled. People don't necessarily know. What are my rights as a Lebanese citizen?
That's true.
What are my rights? And also back to, for instance, what does the Constitutional Council really do? Like, should I care or should I not care? Because I have enough on my plate. Kids, family, marriage,
just surviving,
job,
basically.
car,
like
mazout.
That's so true because all three of us got like pretty good education in this country during our school years. And I would say that none of us over here know anything about like the Lebanese constitution, about the rules, about our basic rights.
I know we have
I think
one.
high members in government don't really
but
know
like
about
we
the
weren't even taught this. Like we weren't even taught
No.
this in school. None of us did Lebanese baccalaureate. So none of us. And even if you want to find out about it, like, is there enough information online to really find out about like all these laws?
No. But I'm working on an initiative.
Fair.
When I launch it, I'll come back here and I'll tell you about it.
Yes,
guys.
we'd love to know.
If you'll have me back.
We would
Always,
definitely
you're
for a
always
third
welcome.
time. For a third time.
Third time's the charm.
Right, with the cameras and the mics aligned.
Yes.
Right.
And just even going on to your point, and something so stupid, but it's true. When you get stopped at a police checkpoint, essentially, whether you get fucked over or not is subjective to how the officer is feeling on the day. And as a citizen, I think we've all been there. If an officer wants to fuck around with you, I don't know what to say. I don't know what rights I have. I don't know what.
Last week,
And that's like the scariest.
Last week we were going on me, John,
Yes.
Ryan wanted to go on a walk and just get some fresh air
On the waterfront.
And you just get to the waterfront, and there were so many people over there. It was during lockdown, but the people exercising, jogging, going out to their families, and we sat down the whole time and we were talking about this funny subject: how, this country, when you look at the
potential
mountains,
and the
the potential,
mountains
but
and
then
the
there's
sea.
always this small incident that happens during the day, which like brings you back to
sucker
reality. Why
punches
this?
you,
Yeah.
Wakes you up on your
So
situation.
we finished the walk
where
and
you
we was
are.
like, let's come back to the office. And on our way back, we're getting towards the end of the waterfront. Police car comes and sees us, even though there were like 20 other people around us, and they call us, "Tao shabab, come." And we're all wearing masks and stuff. Like, you're not allowed to be walking, right? ممنوع التجول. We're like, no, it says ممنوع التجول after 5 p.m. It's like, no, you're not supposed to be walking here. And then we get into a bit of an argument with him.
هويتكم شباب
And I had forgotten
ID.
my
He didn't have his ID.
and, I didn't bring it with me. It was here in the
Which,
office.
by the way, in Lebanon, they're legally allowed to take you to the
Apparently.
mahfal
Yeah,
if you
which
don't
is-
have your
yeah.
ID.
Yeah, so I stayed silent when he said that. So I'm okay, I'm not gonna talk anymore.
Yeah.
And then he basically is like, okay, we're gonna have to fine you guys. We're like, why? Like, there are so many other people over here. Why don't you go? Why are we?
No,
the ones-
we're gonna get to them. We're gonna get to each and every
So
single.
they said they're gonna go to fine everyone, and then they didn't even fine us. They fined one of us.
No, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
They're like, بالعربي, like, شو الشباب مين بده يتبرع? So who's gonna volunteer?
Who's gonna take it?
And we're like, what? He's like, no, so we don't give all three of you zbutat. We're just gonna give to one of you and you will split it.
And split the money between
So, you know,
yourselves.
because إنه هن إدمية and they care and they want
Which by
to-
definition is illegal.
It's
and then
illegal.
he goes
So,
like sorry إيه قلت له man إذا عن جد sorry you don't give me the ضابط
The ضابط.
If
For
عن
walking in
جد
open
sorry.
air with masks
with
on
masks
the waterfront.
And the claim that they put is that we got fined because we weren't wearing masks. And we were wearing masks.
On paper, it was,
On paper, it was like they weren't wearing masks and they gave one fine. So this guy, this law enforcer, was illegally carrying out law.
But did you accept the fine?
I didn't want to argue with him because I didn't have my Hawi and I didn't want to go to the
didn't want him to
Mahfar and
take
then
you.
just get into another situation. But I think we're appealing it now or something.
I took it I have it
He basically got fined. He was the one who got fined.
the worst part of it all.
50,000
You should charge it to those guys.
they
We
will
said that.
Put it on the
Even the officer was
Who
saying.
had the idea of walking?
it was actually my
Yeah,
idea
Okay.
yeah.
It was a nice day though.
And the worst part about it was I asked several times. I'm like, yeah, but we've not seen the rules. Like, I'm the first person. If the rules were published and they were clear and they were spread out, I would abide by the rules. I would respect them.
And then he brings out this like picture on
Yeah,
his
he's
phone,
like,
which
it's
was
on-
taken
yeah,
off a
it was all
paper,
over
and he's
social
like,
media,
It's on
it's all
Lebanese,
over-
what Lebanese forces?
Yeah.
Leb
Lebanese-
ISF.
Yeah.
Leb ISF, some bullshit
So
like
who the
that.
fuck follows Leb
Yeah,
ISF?
exactly.
Nah, this is very unfortunate, and
Yeah.
it's very wrong, and
But what can you do as a citizen in that place? Like you're just hoping. Please don't take me to the
But-
makhfar because I don't know
No,
how
you're
the fuck I'm gonna get out
you're
of that situation.
You're absolutely right.
And the worst thing
You're
about it is
absolutely right.
your reaction to that is again entrenching yourself back to system. So if you want to get him over, like get one back at him, you have to be like, okay, I'll use my connection, I'll use my wasta, which is the only way.
Yeah.
Which like that's the only way shit gets done in this country. And then it's unfortunate because if you want to let go of your thing, you have to use your wasta. Hence again, going back to that toxic system that they've created.
Dude, when you don't have your Hawi on you, you shouldn't be tripping balls as if you have a kilo of cocaine on you.
Exactly.
It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But
It's
that
not
was
the
the
same.
situation, and I get it. I get
Dude,
it.
we lived in London for like 6 years.
Yeah,
Did
if
you
you don't
ever
have-
walk with your
no,
passport or
no,
like
fuck
British
no.
driver's license?
No, and you could argue back, and
Yeah.
there's a system behind
And
it,
there's
and
like
there's a
rules
bit
and
of
regulations which
Yeah.
you can show them. No, bro, I'm amending this and that. It's just
Yeah. So everything you are actually talking about is that system, right? That horrendous system of mafia, of oligarchy, and you can only get respect and justice if you are a connected person. And يعني connected يعني you know one of the 7 oligarchs.
yes.
يعني
Yeah.
or
And
somebody
someone within their-
or somebody
yeah.
within their
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
level
Their cousin or their
their
fucking
surroundings,
Cousin
right?
or like a
Bodyguard.
right hand man or something like that.
So right, or مثلا if you happen to know the minister Fahmy, you know, you just say this is what happened today. No, he would probably said this is wrong. You send me the name of the Ran, I'll make sure that, and then they'll probably like not fine him 50,000, like maybe that, but that is not Banana Republic. That is worse. That is a murderous regime of mafia lords and militia lords who are taken for hostage the Lebanese people in order to enrich themselves and in order for them to bank on their power, both on an egotistical level as well as on a financial and like a financial level, while incurring pure nepotism in order for this system to be hereditary. Which is what brings us back to the idea that the real retribution is to get rid of that system.
So now with obviously we're trying to form a government and that's being held up. I just wanted to ask, despite the obvious reasons, why do you think it's being held up? And what are we going to be seeing with this new government? Are we going to be seeing new faces? Is it going to be technocratic? What's going to happen?
No. So, wow. We are back to the very old, to the very classic old formula of a government. All the oligarchs are calling the shots, and they are putting avatars. They're trying to find avatars, but also it is very important to note that they have a very unsound understanding of what a technocrat is. They believe, and this is straight from the source. I'm not telling you this is my assessment from reading newspapers. This is coming from meetings, straight from meetings of these people that have, you know, they don't understand what a technocrat is. They believe a technocrat يعني منه بالحزب.
Oh, so a technocrat isn't a specialist in their field.
هن بالنسبة لهم it's enough for you to be qualified as a technocrat. You are not in the political
If you're
party.
not in a political party. Okay,
But
wow.
and you're not like, we're not bringing you know, someone who's 8 years old, like, you know, and who's not in a political party.
It's a learned mom. Or,
No, it's like he or she has a job or like a degree of some sort. That's enough to be a technocrat. That's the understanding of a technocrat.
Which is what we saw with our past few PMs.
And also, like, if you do some investigative journalism into the link of each one of those quote unquote technocrats and how they're linked to the oligarchy, either they're married into it or they used to work for it, like as a, believe it or not, حتحمل شنط, bodyguard, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they go up the
They
ranks.
climb up the ranks, yeah.
They climb the ranks, but you're not a partisan.
No.
Hey, you're not a partisan. They don't understand that a technocrat is somebody who, exactly as you correctly understood it initially. Shame on you for correctly understanding.
I apologize.
That technocrat is somebody who is not just, because even specialized, it's not just specialized, but breathes, lives, works, and devotes their time to that subject matter. Right? In that very... مش إنه والله he has a degree in medicine, but he's been in agriculture for the past 2 years and he listens to music. Let's put him as Minister of Arts. You know. We don't have a Minister of Arts, by the way.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure we'll get one soon with that exact description.
Right, yeah.
Description,
I know. And but by the way, like, and also for those who happen to have fallen upon a technocrat, a real technocrat, the technocrats are avoiding this like the plague.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
I mean, they wouldn't touch this with a 20-foot pole. They wouldn't come close
really
to
want
it.
nothing
And
to do
I
with it.
know firsthand how many technocrats have already said no to ministerial positions in this government. Those same people would have probably said yes at any point in the past few years,
Yeah.
back when the idea of being a minister was still muddled, and maybe you thought that you could maybe do something.
Do
if,
some
you know,
change, yeah.
through some, like, maybe. Now everybody understands the picture. They really understand.
Even
the
have
picture.
like respect for Adib though, because he had the chance to be prime minister, and I felt as if he was talking with Macron a lot about trying to actually reform the system, but then when he wanted to implement some of his methods when creating the new ministry, they all started with the usual bullshit. I want this, I want that, and I actually have respect for him for being like, okay, I'm not gonna bow down to this, and I'm not gonna take part in this, and he just resigned, because so many other people in his place would have been like, they would have seen the lust for power and they would have given in to having power at any cost. And he had the dignity at least to resign because he didn't want anything to do with this.
Well, I mean, I'm going to put a caveat into what you just said. What you said makes sense if that is the narrative, but that's not the full narrative. Adib would have lost everything if he became PM. He currently is one of the highest paid diplomats in the world. He has 5 kids. Young kids, and he was living a completely unbothered life and doing what he needed to do, the dances he needed to do with the oligarchy, and was out of people's radar. If he was going to be PM under those circumstances, that he would have lost that salary forever. He would have never been diplomat again. He would have failed at the task of being PM because ما كان قدر يركب شيء معقول.
Obviously.
And that is a piece of information that was actually given to him.
So why did he accept in the first place?
Because he didn't understand that. He thought he could go back to his job.
Oh, okay. So you think that's the main reason as to why he resigned?
I am sure that's the main reason.
Oh, wow.
No
So he just
way.
misunderstood the.
No, I wouldn't say misunderstood, but, well, actually maybe misunderstood, because I know that he came very uninformed.
Because
And I know that he came knowing he is completely inexperienced, but he was also being advised by completely inexperienced people.
Because
We know these people, but I have the names. I know exactly how it went.
the wide narrative that was being reported, like the way that I formulated my opinion, was based on the wide narrative that was being reported that the Shia duopoly did not let him take the ministry.
That's part of the story.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that
But
I got.
but that
so-
was his escape clause of
Yeah.
being unscathed. Like, you don't upset anyone, man. Like, go back to your... Don't upset anybody. And you did a little bit of a twirl in the limelight. You got a little bit stressed out. You stressed people out, then you left. Like, it's actually...
Yeah, I was a bit
this was the
misinformed.
best possible
Yeah.
case scenario for a
Yeah.
guy like him.
Yeah.
You come, you take some unwarranted credit, even though he wasn't looking for it. But you take some unwarranted credit. You don't get your... Like, he didn't want to get his hands dirty, knowing that you could never wash your hands. You could never wash your hands for the rest of your life. He's like, شو بدي بهالشغلة? I know. But شو بدي بهالشغلة? Not because I am wise and I'm all-knowing and, I have this white beard of a sage and I
Yes.
know...
The beard of Merlin.
Yeah.
I overflow goodness.
Yes, it was more just like buddy, if you إذا بتركب حكومة, even if it's for one night, you're never a diplomat again.
Oh. See, like I never
like,
found
oh,
out
fuck,
about
my
that.
salary.
My narrative was all based off like
No, I mean that's
My life in
he
Germany is over.
is. I would love to have. I know he is one of the highest paid diplomats in the world, but I have heard, but that's hearsay. So don't quote that as
Yeah.
being the truth.
yeah.
Possibly,
Word of mouth.
possibly the highest paid diplomat.
Okay.
Wow.
Do you know what ballpark figures we're talking about in terms
Yeah,
of
like-
highest paid
Like I talk, yeah.
six figures, seven figures?
Per year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 figures.
7 figures
We're in the long
for
line.
being.
We're in the wrong line of work.
No.
I think we're in the right line of work. 7 figures.
No. I mean, not 7 figures, 6 figures.
Six
Figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you only say 7 figures?
No, I
No,
said
he said
6.
6
Yeah,
or
no,
7.
it's six.
Then you gave me a look and I was
Yeah.
like, 7?
Yeah, because you give me a look and you're like,
No. 6.
Okay.
20 figures.
Okay.
20 figures.
Yeah, 20 figures.
yeah.
Jesus.
He's Jeff
okay, well,
Bezos and we didn't
now the logic makes sense
Makes
now.
so
The
much
narrative
sense.
makes a lot more sense now.
He has
than-
5 kids, man. He has to
And,
Mouths of
and,
thieves.
and again, like, it's a good job. It's nothing is required of him. You're not supposed to be an ingenious person on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis and come through with like amazing ideas of how to broker peace agreements and how to make green energy.
Yeah,
You
you
just-
keep the wheel rolling,
You
essentially.
just keep
yeah,
the wheel
yeah,
rolling.
yeah.
Like so and again, that is my take on it. That is, I think, the majority of the story. But back to what you were saying about the whole Shia lords being just like, I mean,
there is part
because here's something else that is a little bit funny. He came knowing that he's not the master of his own voice, right? He is not. We know that. We know who he used to work for. We know under what circumstances
He's already somebody
he
else's
came.
puppet, basically.
And we know who nominated him. We know that the 4 PMs
Yeah.
are the ones who pulled the strings at the very beginning and whatever.
Had their meeting and like, we want this guy.
So he came with that narrative to implement that I need technocrats. I'm not going to do what Hassan Diab did. I'm not going to have avatars. I'm going to do... And by the way, like, he's not a technocrat.
No. He doesn't even know what the fuck he was doing.
No,
there.
he's not. He's not even well versed in politics. He came, you know how the deer like caught in the headlight. That was him. He was like, "Oh, yes,
I'm doing it for the camera.
you're right, yeah." So, and understandably so. I think it's a very daunting task. Like that's a human way of looking at it. And by the way, that's what kind of humanized him for me. Like when I saw how uncomfortable he was. I never met him, but I'm
Just basing it off, like,
but
the cameras,
basing off on firsthand accounts of meetings, but also like what we would read in the news and some psychological profiling that I always like to do. I'm like, this is a person who's extremely vulnerable and extremely uncomfortable, and actually, like, really hesitant about how to go about
Fair
this.
enough.
He doesn't want to be
Surrounded
here.
himself with people who have the same level of knowledge, which is nil, but more of an oomph of a confidence, like you do this, you do that, you say this, what I'm like. He's like, okay, like. And by the way, this is why I would term him as a quote unquote good person, in the sense that he's not like slimy with the poison of wanting to like sadistically take over. Like, I think he was genuinely this just guy who was like, okay.
Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do.
What's
Tell
your
me
name
what to do.
again? You know, like,
Yeah, like an eager schoolgirl trying. Yeah.
you know, like, yeah. So, but then as that went through, and he would go butt heads unintentionally with the Shia lords. He'd be like, I'm sorry, it's not me, but I have to do technocrats.
Yeah.
No, you will put our guy in. No, I can't. Like, I
Don't kill the
promised to do
messenger.
technocrats. Like, the guys told me to do technocrats, and I said yes on this condition, and I need to do these technocrats. And then he's like, well, if that's not going to happen, especially that I bye, guys. Like,
Yeah,
bye, okay?
basically.
And then the advisors اللي هلا عم يركبوا الحكومة are like fuck the technocrats. And it's like you gave directions to this guy and under no circumstances should you accept anything less than these conditions. And then once he left, you came and you let go of the conditions because
So
but by the way, it saved him. It saved
his
Mustapha Adib.
his reputation, especially.
It saved, and it earned him,
This
like a
little-
good vibe, and
He is human.
Yeah.
he is a human
Like,
being.
see, like, for instance, I'll be the first one to say it. Like, right now, the misconception was like, oh, yeah, عنده كرامة, he has a bit of honor inside him because he resigned. But till then, I know that
there
the
was
guy
personal interest behind
Yeah,
it.
then
But
literally, I know there was
personal
six-figure
Of course there
deals going on.
There always
behind
has
the
to be
scenes.
personal interest.
But
yeah.
like, we're talking about this right now, and the government being formed, and we were talking about the bomb, and it's been over 100 days, and still 100 days have passed, over 100 days have passed, and we still have no signs of a new government being formed. Like,
No.
What's holding it up?
yeah, like, why hasn't there been?
عجقة.
Besides, you know, sectarian, I want the finance ministry.
There's a
and I
lockdown
want-
going on.
Yeah,
bro.
that's what's holding it up. It's the lockdown.
What's holding it up? I mean, if they're going to do a repeat of the government of Diab and the one before it, then
خلينا بلا حكومة بركة أحسن.
لا إنه they're doing يعني, and also now there's animosity between them that's even triple what there used to be before, because before there were some deals like مثلا خطة الكهرباء, okay, the electricity plan. Everyone was gonna make it go, even though it is a really unprofessional plan where the numbers don't add up, and a fiasco in of itself. They all were like لا 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 هيدي بتقطعي قطعوها right. بس إنه في كم شغلة كانت معرقلة القصة لأنه like when it comes to this specific point and the electricity plan, we want something maybe, right? But now everything is starting to be exposed. Everything is starting to be exposed. So what is it? What's going on between us? We need to talk. What's going on between us? Where are we in our relationship?
It's like, yeah, a very toxic relationship between a couple, and they're sitting
Right?
down with a therapist and like,
and
let's talk.
but also they don't know.
I think everything's normal for between them.
They don't know. They don't know how to deal.
Oh,
They don't know how to deal with the issues. The number one issue right now is the financial, fiscal, economic issue. That's the number one issue, okay? You cannot do anything if you don't have world experts on your team to resolve this crisis. The world experts who are competent have said, fuck off to those guys.
yeah, on numerous occasions.
I'm بحكي Lebanese.
Yeah.
I'm not talking IMF and the forensic
Yeah.
audit. I'm talking very, very competent Lebanese people. They're known. There is a list of names. They are known who they are. They keep going back to the same people that know they are true world leaders when it comes to finance matters. All of them have said, fuck off. Because you don't live, يعني, to name a few, عادل أفيوني, Henri Cheoul, Nasser Saidi, Alia Mbayid, her sister Lamia Mbayid, Paul Raphael, like they're known. Those guys are known. They are giants. Nasreen Salti, they
What
are
about
giants.
Nassim Taleb? He's like a mathematical scholar, and بس ما خصه in these matters.
No comment.
Swing and a
Good.
miss.
Nice try. Nice try.
No, I mean, no.
Let's focus on these
That
people
says it
now.
off, yeah.
Yeah. These people are bred inside out in finance matters. They all have specialties when it comes to resolving such enormous crises. They're not little bankers, head of small charter bank, like they are giants in the field of economics and finance. And they were more than happy to give their time, to give their for free, to give their expertise without asking for credit, without wanting to have a statue out of them as having saved the economy. But there was nobody to be on the receiving end of that advice. There was no one to be on the receiving end of that advice. they were like, wow, you're going to drag us down with you. You're going to drag us down with you. Today, if you had a competent leader who is calling the shots in a very sort of, how do we say, if you had a leader who would be able to choose in like a benign dictator type of like situation, he or she would get that team with more names that I haven't mentioned because it's not at the top of my head, but like, and nothing else. And you work 7 days a week, day and night. You don't see your families. We feed you, we bathe you. You do nothing else than just salvage this financial crisis. And nothing else. لا مين محسوب عمين ولا أي حزب ولا where are you coming from ولا who did you vote for ولا who one day a long time ago I saw you a picture it was Samir Jaja in the coulisses of a theater. You are an expert, you are a technocrat, you are not a partisan, and none of those guys are partisans. You come and you work on this. And we talk to the IMF and we talk to the French Mubadara and we talk to them with numbers and we open files and we get to fucking solutions. We don't get to prance around our old style of لا أنا ما بقبل لا أوكي فاين لعيونك لا مش لعيوني لا ما بطيقه هيدا ما بدي لا بفضل كون لحالي أوكي خلاص fine let's meet next Tuesday let's meet I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating and I'm making fun, but that's how it goes.
Yes,
like
no,
that's how it goes, and egotistical pleas, and also a completely disconnected egotistical plea that I want to be the one calling the shots. هيدا ملفي. I want to call the shots, and it's just like you don't understand what's going on. We just surpassed Venezuela.
Mozambique Zimbabwe.
We just surpassed Zimbabwe. Who, by the way, also have Zolar.
Yeah.
Like the whole coin term started there. Zolar, مش نحن اخترعنا اللولار. Zolar, right? وفي فولار عند Venezuela. Right? So we just surpassed Zimbabwe and we are second after Venezuela. And arguably Venezuela doesn't have all of the pockets of crises that we have. Like Venezuela doesn't have the same intractable issues on all levels like we do.
Yeah.
That's why they say arguably this might be, not to compare, and it's so useless to compare, but this is sort of unprecedented, right?
Yeah.
So when the only qualified people who could fix this mess reject the notion, when the capital we need through the IMF is just going to be waiting and sitting there, I don't know for how long, which we're not going to access because you need actual reforms in place to access that capital, is not going to be there. So what the fuck is the solution? It seems like, and I don't want to be pessimistic, but this is the case, there is absolutely no solution. It's at a stalemate. Or do we need it to completely capitulate even more for them to give leeway and say, okay, maybe now we can start actually making reforms?
That's the $1 million question. They are a hopeless case. And this is coming from, again, a perspective of having been in those rooms and spoken to those people. They are incapable of addressing this issue. Not with their psyche, not with their advisors, not with their modus operandi, okay? They're incapable. They really, I'm going to give this metaphor because it is true. A fish lives in water, right? A fish lives in water. You take the fish, you're like, no, live on the rock. I don't know how. I can't. I don't know how. You're like, no, but live on the rock. The rock is the place to be.
It's good, man.
It's good. Like the rock, there's sunlight, you have food. You know, it's like, I don't know. Well, to use a very beautifully sort of like a beautifully complementing metaphor. I know they will never be as ingenious and elegant as fish, those oligarchs, but they are the fish who only can live in the sea or in the water, the sea, in the water, and we are being just like, but we can only build a country on a rock.
Well,
And
Bring the fish.
And they're like, but we, like, they can't.
well, they are like a fish. They're like piranhas.
Oh, good.
And they
Thank you.
definitely
Well,
suffer
My first
from,
one of the day. Thank you.
No, but that's really good,
Yeah,
actually. They
thanks.
are, and
Thank you.
they're a pack, and they don't...
They feed,
They hunt
exactly.
in a
They hunt in
pack
a
They
pack.
suffer a
and,
lot from short-term memory loss. It doesn't really affect them.
That's also very true. That's an interesting piranha fact, which helps add to
And
that.
they eat garbage.
They eat
And they eat
garbage.
garbage.
But
yeah.
like,
and blood.
my only
And black.
fear about this entire like economic collapse that we're going through and will continue to go through for a long time is like, when I look at areas that are very poor in Lebanon, like in the north of Lebanon, areas like Tripoli, I feel like cases like this is what breeds extremism. And then when you have like mini militia groups which will start to form, and I've already read a few articles that right now people are starting, like, there's a mini ISIS movement going on, or like the mukhabarat were able to catch a few individuals who are associated to ISIS. And when people become very poor, they become desperate, and that's when you could like alter the.
Absolutely, you're right.
So
I wish they'd call themselves Mini ISIS. That'd make it cute. We are Mini ISIS.
It look great on a t-shirt.
But
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
if the country continues to go in the direction that it's going through right now, maybe in 2 to 3 years' time, you could see like this mini Wahhabi extreme movement that might rise up.
You're saying the desperation will lead to that. Yeah.
So
And-
let's address that in a second, because this will bring us to the whole Macron visit,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that is what you're saying is 100% on point. And before I dive into that,
Yeah.
we were finishing the oh yeah, I was just saying, back to the piranha, that the reason why they cannot resolve it is because they are incapable of resolving it. They don't know how to live outside of water. They don't know how to live outside the system of clientelism and corruption and egotistical nepotism type of politics. They don't know how. And we, the independent sort of political entities of Lebanon have tried to, obviously, like, you try to say, hey, no, like, this is a suggestion of how to do it. It was just a waste of time and a waste of energy spread over years. مش إنه والله عطيناهم one chance and it was like one meeting and the meeting was like, no. It's year after year after year. In my specific case, I've been trying since 2013 to talk about the energy issue and to talk about the waste issue. That is my expertise.
Yeah, you said an interesting story once when you were working with like a foreign renewable energy company, that when they came to Ba and they saw the situation over here, they're like, no
fuck that.
fucking way.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, exactly. I actually, very, very good that you point that out, because I wrote that in my Macron article. When I wrote an article that was...
Very interesting article. By the way.
Thank you. I wrote an article that was trying to figure out the real motives of Macron's double visit, which is unprecedented. So now we dive into that. And one of the things that have made so many Lebanese people answer that question, because I did ask that on social media, and I'm not saying that the people who follow me on social media are the representative Lebanese, are a representative sample of the Lebanese people, but I think there's a very large chunk of them that come from different walks of life, and they come from different educational backgrounds, and some of them are part of the diaspora, some of them are local, some are professionals, some are not, you know. And I asked, like, why do you think Emmanuel Macron came to visit Beirut twice in less than a month, which is unprecedented. And I do have to point out that it's been done with Germany only. But imagine France and Germany are carrying the European Union on their shoulders, and they're facing an enormous hurdle right now, which is the whole Brexit thing and COVID and the refugee crisis. And there is reason for them to visit each other, but why come to tiny Lebanon, Beirut, and obviously I'm not saying that I have the ultimate answer, but I personally believe it is my choice of, like, that is my choice of the answer. Many people have talked about business and talked about oil and gas and talked about
the ports, take control of the port.
Take exactly business contracts, like the port of the Mediterranean. Some people have linked it to the struggle with Turkey. And the Mediterranean, the struggle of the Mediterranean, the struggle for the Mediterranean gas. And you know, like, Macron is also trying to flex back at Erdogan and things like that. And it's fascinating, by the way. It's interesting, and I love reading what people think, especially those who are, if you follow me, you're interested in politics. Like that's most of what I put out there. I sometimes put a video of me cooking, but other than that, on a Sunday.
And your flight experiences.
And my flight experiences, yes. Yeah.
We've stalked
you. Exactly. I mean, I share other human experiences, but
I'm not just politics.
But yes, but mostly politics. A lot of politics, let's say that. And it seems that we have instilled in our culture a sense of self-importance.
Self-righteousness.
Yes. Yeah. And self-importance that doesn't fit with the real picture. Not economically, not financially, not politically, and not historically. Because even if you open history books and you try to see, let's go back to the time where Lebanon was the center of the world.
The Phoenician.
We are the Phoenicians, the hub of global trade.
Yeah, it's storytelling, right? And then I still remember the sentence that they used to make us memorize in 9th grade about how Lebanon is the door between East and West. No!
Wow.
Like
stupid.
I mean,
it's similar to
it's a door, right? It's a door.
It's one of many doors.
It's whole door.
It's whole door, right? Yes, and
it's more door.
But we have absolutely it is more door at the moment. Bravo, that's excellent.
Just flew right over.
Yeah, well played.
But if we want Lebanon to be important, you need to take care of what you're selling. There's nothing to sell. It's like, you know, take it really, whenever we try to grasp big concepts, take it to the smallest concept and project from there. You are a salesman. You want to sell me that cup. In Ryan's world, it's the best cup in the world.
It is. It's the Fawda 2020 logo. Like and subscribe. But yeah, please go on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You are selling. You tell your family and your friends and all of your surroundings that this is the best cup, and everyone drinks the Kool-Aid, and everyone is like, "This is the best cup. This is the best cup." Right? Then I'm a buyer. I'm like, and then I look at your cup, and I'm just like, it's a shitty cup. First of all, it has a hole on the inside. What kind of cup has a hole on the in? Like, I can't pour water in it. Fix your cup before you, like, no, sell me something. And then you're like, nah. Then you start doing a conspiracy about me. Like, the reason why she doesn't like, it's because she doesn't like half-finished people, you know? And then it's,
she's anti-fin.
And then they start talking about it, and then be like, on an international level, by being just like, which is what they did with Biden, by the way. Like, he wants to strike a deal with Iran, and it's just like, based on what? Based on hearsay from people who just live by emotional.
Based on the fact he wants to take down Hezbollah.
And to be fair, Obama's reign and tenure where he was VP, and I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely.
Yeah, but they
No.
blow it out.
It's a weak link. It's a weak.
They
It's a
blow
weak
it out
link.
of proportion. They say as if he's gonna go and he's gonna.
I should have maybe weighed my words. Pro-Iran. They say he's pro-Iran.
Yes.
Like, and it's like, that's not a sentence in U.S. politics. There's no such thing as pro-Iran. But back to you.
True.
If I am the best country in the world, the best people, the best everything, the best port, the best gas, the best petrol, the best girls, the best boys, the best everything,
just the best.
right?
Just the greatest.
But if I want that to be the case and I'm not working on my product, I have nothing to sell. Today, I have nothing to sell. We have nothing to sell. Therefore, there are no buyers. There are no takers. We have nothing to sell. Fix your cup. fix your cup, fix the hole, damn it. Then we can talk about the design and the length and then maybe you can be competitive, but by no means will you be the best cup. But maybe you'll be competitive. Maybe you'll have some buyers. But until you don't fix the hole in your cup, stop saying it's the best cup. Stop. It's ill-willed. It's starting to become a malady. Like, stop. It's like, no.
I will.
He
Yeah,
wants.
I
He
will.
wants.
No, I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry. Shit, I'm gonna apologize for
Stop
this
drinking from a
theoretical
cup,
situation.
goddammit.
This is how we give a traumatic experience to someone out of nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, cup.
He's gonna wake up and that cup.
I'll be okay, but you're paying for my therapist. That's for sure. I'll be okay. I'm just gonna be having recurring nightmares of this fucking cup.
Cup.
with
It's
a
like,
hole
why
in
did
it.
I put a hole? Why didn't I plug the hole?
Yeah.
But so all of this to say is to always, this is an advice that I like to follow. So if that will help anybody else, this is great. If you struggle with big ideas, shrink them down to something palpable and then try to see if this works or not. Because politics and big people's games are really no different than the small games that we play with our family and our friends. No different. Same egos, same mindset, same prejudice, same wants, same desires, and same numbers. Like, the numbers don't become different and warped when they're at high scale. Like, if it doesn't make economic sense, I'm not a buyer. It's same inta when you go, you take money out of your wallet. How much is this? Can't afford it. Move on. Like, same thing with the big ones. Like, same thing. But when the problem is when it becomes such big ideas, people start giving new circumstances to it. Like, gravity's different. Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone is super organized at the high level, enough for them to conspire that the world is flat and that there's microchips in the vaccine. Like, all of a sudden, the circumstances change at the high level. Everyone is organized. Everyone is on time. Everyone is agreeing with everyone. Like, no one is saying, no, I'm going to blow the whistle on your flat earth. Like, trying to hide that the earth is flat. Like,
Wait, it's not flat?
well, I mean,
I think she's a big Alex Jones fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
but it's really a good, I think, piece of advice. Humanize problems.
Yeah. Question everything as well.
Yeah, but by humanizing
Obviously,
it, like,
obviously.
not by setting yourself apart as like a powerless figure under the onus of,
Bring it
like,
down to your scale.
Yeah,
I think a
bring
problem,
it down to your scale and understand that the human conflict is the same everywhere. The human problems are the same everywhere, but there are some people slightly more effective and slightly more efficient, but not to a degree where we are all being lied to in a very considerably organized way by all the people who are ruling the world, that so-and-so conspiracy is true or so-and-so conspiracy
The
is
deep
true.
state, basically.
I've always said, wallah, we are not smart enough as a species for these conspiracy theories to be true. We are not that smart. But that's my take.
No, yeah.
Onwards.
We will have an episode in the future where we debunk conspircy
Oh, that'd
theories.
be so much fun.
I'd really
That'd be
like
so
that.
much fun.
Yeah,
But anyways, going back to like the Macron visit, I did some research and I also read your article, and I definitely do believe and agree with your take about them fearing Lebanon's going to turn into a Syria 2.0, and then the refugees first, especially Lebanese people, like, we're tied to France, so like one of the first destinations that we think about is France. I did actually think about it up until reading your article, but at the same time I do feel that there might be certain business interests involved as well, just based off like the facts that I found out. Like, for instance, the founder and
Sam
owner,
Assajan.
his son Rudolph tweeted something saying that we're gonna help rebuild the port.
So can I say something?
And the contract that they were gonna do was a
Sam
deal.
Assajan are the
They're like
founders
the
and
fourth,
owners are Lebanese.
They're like the
okay?
fourth biggest shipping company in
Sure.
the world.
They have personal, how do I say this in a way that doesn't like that doesn't make it shady, because it's not shady. They have their own personal attachment to the cause of Lebanon.
Yeah.
And they might even have personal interests, They might even have, again, we are not takers if the numbers don't
Yeah,
add
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
so if the numbers add up, and plus there is the emotional tie of CMA CGM, plus there is more of a story that probably they're building in their heads of being part of the, like taking this opportunity to save and maybe do the job better than other people, but also like make money off of it. Like, fine, but that's not that is not the
primary
not even the
reason.
primary. That's not the engine of the French initiative.
But what about your take as well on like the Turkish expansion, that's going on in the region with them like trying to take control now of Libya and drilling too close to certain Cypriot and Greek lands, and them. I also heard this take that they're trying slowly to have more influence in northern Lebanon and the poor areas.
They're using Turkish lira for sure.
Yeah, so like
Actually,
maybe
that
there's some of that because it's widely it's widely noted right now in the world between like the certain different viewpoints that France and Turkey have. So
you're saying Macron is trying to suppress the
it's
expansion?
expansion,
this
yeah,
expansionist
maybe just for
ideology
them to have less
of-
authority in the
So-
region.
So what Erdogan is doing is a very, very, very classic ruler,
Yeah.
ultimate rulers.
Yeah, I want to get
rule.
re-elected. and,
especially
yeah.
because domestic policy and his domestic policies in Turkey haven't been great.
The
Is in
economy's
trouble,
failing,
and
yeah.
the
It's
economy's
horrendous.
failing. The Turkish lira am tenhar is
I have a few Turkish friends and
deteriorating.
they tell me that the state in Turkey right now is shit.
Yeah. The Turkish lira is deteriorating by the day. So he's flexing. Okay, he's flexing. You don't like what's going on here. Look here. Look here. Look
We bring
here.
back
Like,
the Ottoman Empire.
Look here, and I'm going to appeal to things. I mean, it is a very cunning move.
Isn't it similar to a bit like what Donald Trump was trying to do in the end with the
course.
peace treaties
Of
in the Middle
course.
East?
Netanyahu, every
Yeah.
time he wants to get re-elected, he
Of
fires
course,
some missiles.
it's the same person.
Yeah.
That's the same guy with different, like with
It's Turkey.
Yeah.
that's the same guy. Netanyahu, Erdogan, Trump, Putin. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
It's the same guy, but with like some obviously characteristics that are like, but it's the same.
Authoritarian rulers.
It's the same
Caliber of
male
people,
ego.
that cunning.
Narcissism. And by the way, wow, reading up about narcissism, because it's not an insulting thing. It is and again, we cannot just distribute the label narcissistic whenever we don't like something. There's a very specific way of operating.
There are traits, yeah.
To be narcissistic. But when we understand it, things start to make sense. And also we understand why problems are intractable, because narcissists don't resolve problems for public good purposes.
They
right?
exacerbate them, yeah.
So back to Erdogan. He's flexing. He wants the applause. They thrive on applause. It's not the applause like respect. That's really well. It's like
More of that like toxic masculinity.
Spring
type.
break.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Toxic masculinity type of approach. You know, I'm the macho stuff guy.
Definitely. And by the way, you also will have disdain as a toxic masculinity type of narcissistically. You will have disdain for those people applauding you.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because you're not like, oh, you love me, I
No,
love you.
I'm better than you.
It's like, yeah, it's like because it's rooted in insecurity, and it's like if you love what I am, then you don't understand what I am, so you're not very smart. But that's a very unconscious, that's a very
no, but it
and
makes
that's
sense.
part of the reason why. Now we're gonna go into a tangent. That's part of the reason why insecurity harbored by people, human beings, and we all have insecurities, but insecurity harbored is the friend, is the best friend, the lover of the self-hating, of the self-hater.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like who you are from this insecurity,
And you project it out.
well, you do
yeah.
exactly, you do a lot of things, but the antithesis of that is self-love, because through self-love then you can literally see people. and you can admire
And
and
you're at peace
respect
with
and
yourself.
yeah. So all of that like self-hatred of insecurity and trying to fill the self-hatred, but it's a hole. We're back to the hole in the cup. Like it's a hole, you can't fill it.
We're never gonna get rid
So
of
you
that.
you start going into the big applause, and then you want more and you want more because it's never enough because you can't plug the hole. You want more, you want more. Back to Erdogan in the sea, flexing muscles, saying this, saying I'm gonna say fuck you to this. I'm gonna say fuck you. You don't like it? We're gonna do a bunch of those like big muscle type of guys stuff, And do I think Macron is being just like I'm gonna go against that guy? First of all, Turkey is mostly a German problem.
Yes, that's true.
Like Turkey is mostly a German problem.
Yes.
Macron is a very, very sophisticated and intelligent person, by the way. Regardless of what one might think of his politics, very sophisticated and intelligent.
You could see it through his career as well.
Yeah, yes. Looks at like reasons through problems in a very, very intelligent way. Wouldn't at all consider any similar approach to Erdogan to be like fight fire with fire. Like his main concern is please no more death boats because I pay the price and you pay the price. He's also a very humanitarian, I think, and I also think, and this is I also think he does care about the Christians of the Orient. That is something that he will not say in a public speech. That is something that he will not single out because if he knows that if he says it, it'll be misunderstood because people will also, you don't care about the Muslims of the Orient? No. I care about everyone, but particular
focus
because we don't want them also to be swallowed by the mini ISIS and the mini Wahhabis. Like we don't want that.
It was evident like over the past 5 years what was happening to them.
It doesn't mean that he prefers them, but he's just understanding. He understands that there is a situation with the Christians of the Orient that particularly need a double take, like look twice at it, from the potential death boats, which will be a result of extreme poverty, which will also harbor Islamic extremism, which is a bad idea for everybody, starting with the extremists themselves. It's just a bad idea for everyone. He knows that. He knows it better than the people running this country. That's how smart he is. He's like, I
see the big picture.
He's like, I see the big picture.
You don't have to be a fucking genius to realize that within 2 to 3 years' time, you could have like a very bad situation
Syria,
going on over here, which could last many years and which could destabilize the entire region. And he's just like, guys, he's told them, like, verbatim, guys, relax, settle your problems, and let's start to reform the country and go forward. And these guys just making fun of him. They basically gave him the middle finger, and they're like,
oh yeah, making fun of him
they just
go reform.
The phrase,
not steal.
Why? I've said this on I think it was France 24. I'm sure it's France 24 where I said this, and I'll say it again here, and I'll keep on saying it. You cannot ask Pablo Escobar to reform if you want something from them. Pablo Escobar's raison d'être is his empire of drugs and murder and corruption. So if you come to Pablo Escobar and you're just like, I see your empire, please reform, stop drugs, stop murder, clean.
Habibi, please.
Habibi, please. So he's just like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? The knife is not here. That's why the sanctions are working, because the knife is coming here. But it's like, as long as the knife is not here and you're just coming and you're saying, please reform for me. Must have had that.
Yeah.
So these guys, their very raison d'être is mafia, theft, corruption, shady deals, nepotism, and like a very specific type of a murderous regime that colludes and partners with other murderous schemes and regimes, right? So you're just like, stop all that. Stop the theft. Stop. Reform. Be better.
And they can't.
Transparency.
It's not within their nature. Unfortunately, it's not.
It's gonna incriminate me. You're asking me to come to you and say the reason why I am chief is because I'm taking these funds and giving them to people. You're now saying, don't give funds to people because no more funds. Reform, open the books, show me where all the funds went. What?
It's like you're telling
exactly.
It's like you're telling a kind-hearted person to go and curse every single person he sees on the streets. Like, it's just impossible for him. It's like just the total opposite
You know what?
situation. But that's what it means.
In another historical timeline, I wouldn't mind playing this fucking game of cat and mouse and let's see who's gonna bite first and when are we gonna have access to the funds and everything. But the situation is so dire. It's so desperate and urgent that
dire.
Yeah, so fucking dire. Even though for some reason when you're out in the streets, you don't really see the ramifications as much. You definitely do. Everything
like
is,
I compare Beirut 2 years ago.
everything is closed.
Even if you go to
streets
go to Bliss. Remember once when you went to Bliss and we were walking there, we're like, bro, what the fuck happened here?
100%. But the situation is so dire, and I don't want to go off too much on a tangent. You shouldn't be going to bars and nightclubs and restaurants, and you need to let off steam. I know, but
that's what I'm like. Some people
you need to let off steam. But I'm saying, as a byproduct, it's fascinating to me that we're in this much shit, but a large portion of the population is still, well, c'est la vie, and the weekend is here. We need to go out. But I don't want to go off too much on that tangent.
Let's talk about like the October 17 revolution for a bit and like
yes,
how we
and
can
mobilizing for the future,
mobilizing
for the next
future.
elections, definitely.
Do you think like right now the best way forward is to focus on the upcoming elections if we have one and try to form like an opposition party?
Absolutely. I think it's the only way. But prior to, if the elections were happening next month, we are in deep shit. Like, there is no opposition that is consolidated. There are 400 WhatsApp groups, and by the way, like, on those groups, no one reads what the other person is saying. No one. Rarely do people, like, there is no continuity.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to say this. I want to send you that. I want to do this. So again, it's like
so much chaos.
Like, I just saw this interesting thing. Here you go.
But it's surely more tangible than just WhatsApp groups. I mean, there
Here you go.
Yeah, what about like all these groups like Tishrin?
That's the first thing. It's like, but the reason why WhatsApp groups is because COVID and all that.
Yeah.
There are some important entities that are trying to mobilize within themselves internally and that have been doing work on the ground even pre-revolution, during the revolution, trying to do these partnerships. The issue with any of that, I mean, there are so many issues, but the issue with that is just because you are anti-regime, let's call it the regime, okay? Let's say, let's call the oligarchy the regime. The regime. Just because you're anti-regime is not good enough. And by the way, some people are not even anti-regime. And I'm saying, imagine you are already, let's say we have a group of hundreds of thousands of people and they're all unabashedly anti-regime. Yeah. Okay, let's say that little problem is not there, but it is there. But I'm not gonna talk about that. It's not enough to be anti-regime because we don't have a constitution for how this works. We don't have guidelines. We don't agree on any precept. We don't know where this is going. The only thing that we seemingly agree on is that we are anti-regime, right? The anti-regime needs an inner working, to understand how the inner workings will happen through like a mock constitution. On what precepts are we going to bid to run this country on? Okay? That answer must come from technocrats. It cannot come from Madame Silhouette or Monsieur Champignon, who happen to be fed up with the regime and are very confident and vocal about their opinions, and
but do not have any particular expertise.
Exactly.
But the WhatsApp thread, like, here's what we have to do.
Took a few videos on Instagram calling out a few politicians' policies.
Not to at all diminish the role of Madame Silhouette and Monsieur Champignon. who are mobilizers, who are activists, who are people who can pull others, and if they're as gifted as they are in my story with like confidence and storytelling, then guess what? You will be put to mobilize people and convince other people. هو اللي بيسموه المفاتيح. No,
But
أنت-
their role
They break down the
shouldn't be-
facade
Yeah.
and they
Their role
they
is to
help with
attract
the
you
education.
can't, but you cannot put the constitution.
Of course,
That
yeah.
needs to be technocrats.
Yeah,
now
yeah.
we
No, I
come.
agree. I
Now we
totally
come
agree.
into like, who are the technocrats, right? That is the struggle.
But Anna, that's a sad thing for me when you talk about the October Revolution, is that it's been just over a year. And even up until now, like if you ask me, okay, so we're going to form our opposition political party, who I don't even know. I can't give you 5 names of people that I know will represent. Maybe the closest one is Melhem Khalaf. Like that's that guy I know. But like then if I start digging deeper, like there's still no, like we still don't have a tangible group who's going to represent us.
That's right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. And that is an extremely important. That is an extremely important point that we need to address and that we need to remedy to. But not just that. Do you remember? We said last time, or I don't know if it's last time in this recording. I don't know if it's a few minutes ago or
A week ago.
It feels like months ago. Yeah.
Like, but in the United States, the election happened this year on November 3rd.
Yeah.
The president-elect takes power.
He finally agreed, by
on
the way.
January ish. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. He can. Well, on January, he's like, we still will fight for the right that
He'll run
we-"
again in
you know,
2024.
To party.
To
Yeah,
party.
sorry.
No, but like, so the president-elect gets. We know who the president-elect is on November 3rd, and the transfer of power is effectively done on January 20th. That transition is in a country where everything is already in place. You have nothing to invent. You have nothing to invent. You are just replacing people, handing over keys, handing over, moving your things.
You have a constitution, you have everything, you know the system.
And
You're another
you
piece in
need-
that system right now.
And you need 2.5 months to do that. And they work like the clock. By the clock they work, right? That is 2.5 months for a seamless, organized, we know exactly what's going on type of transition. Can you imagine with what we have to do? Like what kind of time we need?
Well, technically, right now, there's like an over 3-month time period for a transition of power between prime ministers, and there is no set time period. It's like
Reinvent the constitution, get rid of the warlords,
Yeah.
full electricity.
And align the anti-regime people. They're not aligned. We are not aligned.
yeah, they don't even have a political party technically.
But you
which
said it
represents them.
earlier, all these people who are technocrats and capable and qualified to lead, a new opposition party, they don't want to have anything to do with it. You're saying, like,
I think they didn't want to have anything to do because like
they didn't want to have anything to do with the regime.
Yeah.
with the regime.
Because,
Not
like,
with.
But have you heard? I don't know, through your connections, where you see that there is a group of people who are mobilizing
Yes.
and have
Yes.
a technocratic background.
Yes.
Okay.
and they're willing to partake in like
In a new-
in a new system, in
Absolutely,
a new group.
but then we have a battle of not with these guys. These guys are just, but we have in general, like we do in all situations in the world, but we always have a battle of like
maintaining
role
egos.
sharing,
dividing the
role
power.
giving, dividing the power,
Yeah.
understanding, credit giving, credit taking. Also like ignorance on very, very important matters. Like we can defer on opinions, but we shouldn't defer on knowledge. Like the knowledge should be there, but then we can be just like, oh, we have like a different opinion on how to address this. Like, do we start by restructuring this, or do we start by that can be debated, and that's the whole point of having a team of experts going at it. But when we already are starting with people who are loud and trying to take but have no knowledge, or don't have a knowledge about the specificities.
Aren't experts, basically.
of this. They could be knowledgeable about something.
Yeah,
but
let's say
like-
experts from a political standpoint.
Yes.
Or
ونحن we also have another issue. Is for us, if they're honest, يعني كف نظيف وآدمي.
بيحرقوا دينه.
No. What I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say is a كف نظيف وآدمي. That's great. That's enough. هذا الحد الأدنى. That's the minimum requirement. Again, take it back to your own business. You have a business. Your secretary or your assistant manager or your manager, it's like, what do you like about him or her? You say, honest, كف نظيف ما بتسرق. أي بس إنه is she good? Is she mobilizing? Is she doing things? Is she selling? Is she... No, بس إنه she's not stealing. يعني نحن صرنا هون.
Yeah, the bar
There's
is
no qualification.
crazy.
Yeah,
صرنا
yeah.
هون.
Crazy.
ما مفروض تنقال. Honest. حد الأدنى إنه هلا أنا صير إنه he's honest, so therefore I give you the keys to my life.
Here, take control of
You
the
are
full
honest,
power.
yes, but then I want qualified, competent, out there, ambitious. I need more qualifications in order for me to be able to pull up the task for this. Again, I go back to pull it inwards into a very menial task that you do on a day-to-day. The housekeeper that lives with us, people don't accept for her to just be honest. She needs to be hardworking and on time and respectful. And so why do you expect differently from the leader?
But like, if you should expect more from the
why
leaders.
should
He
you
should
expect
be an example.
differently
Idiots.
from the leader? It's like, it's like minimum requirements. And it is very important, and I don't know how much time we still have, to talk about, really in essence, there is a formula for what makes revolutions succeed. There is a very specific formula. And if we don't take this formula and we don't respect it and we don't understand the ramifications and the different complexities of how a revolution comes on board and develops and succeeds,
What's the formula?
we are I'll tell you, we are taking a huge leap of faith into something that feels right, but the reason why it's not advancing is because the science is not doing its entrance. The emotion, the heart, the passion is there. Science needs to enter the room. It's time. Knowledge needs to enter the room. So, knowledge and science without passion and mobilization is as useless as mobilization and passion without science and knowledge. But they're both deaths. Sure deaths. The passion, the mobilization, the electric, the electric emotion that we feel is there. Fantastic. That needs to stay there. That needs to be the fire that constantly burns. You need to start building the chimney around it. You need to start safeguarding that fire with science and knowledge, right? And when you take a look, and I will actually be talking about this very soon. I'm giving a talk about the failure and success of revolutions and what does it take for a revolution to succeed. But I will say this, and again, I don't know how much time we have to talk about this. Revolutions are rare. And the biggest mistake, and that is a mistake that everyone makes, is to believe that what foments a revolution is hunger and poverty. It's the opposite. The hungrier and poorer you are, the more shut your mouth will be, because you're hanging by a thread. Revolutions are not fomented by poverty and hunger. What Majida Rumi sings in her song, إن الثورة تولد من رحم الأحزان, is wrong, scientifically wrong. It's poetically beautiful. She's obviously not. She didn't write those lyrics. They're very it's a famous poem, but it's wrong. It's just a way people took it and they ran with it.
Romanticizing the
They're like
revolution.
شو يشوفوا بكره بس الليله بس سعر الصرف يصير 20,000 و50,000 رح ناكلكم اكل. It's not going to happen. This is social science. Those who lead revolutions and those who foment revolutions are the elites. That's it. The elites. شو يعني elites? مش people with money, people with marakiz, with pull. High journalists, high priests, high sheikhs, high politicians, high businessmen and businesswomen, high I said clergy,
military,
Influential
high
people.
military,
Yeah.
high university, like
all the sectors of a functioning country, essentially.
they foment a revolution, not the poor, not the miserable. The poor and the miserable never foment.
It goes at their expense.
Never. Actually, if you take a look at how the world, our world has worked, again, people, and that's due to religion. We miss on how long we've been around because we have been anchored on Jesus Christ and Nabi Muhammad in order for us to be just like, well, those are our like go-to dates. Well, humanity has been around for 1.9 million years, like as we understand our looks to be, right?
Yeah.
And civilization, agricultural civilization, less, more, and 200k or
400,000 years we were doing tribes and shit. 400,000 years
exactly.
ago. Yeah.
So that's what I mean, right? And then so written history or like documents that you have where you could sort of have a feel to
Of how
civilizations came about, all the way to today. At any point in time, if you opened a book, checked their artwork, checked their poems, checked anything that remotely gives us information on who they are, it's misery, famine, hunger, and disease. That's how our ancestors lived and still live. They have lived entrenched in famine, disease, misery, warfare in over the past 3,400 years. We have been at war with one another 9.5 days out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a constant
Epidemics would wipe out populations. 20% of world population, every so often they would wipe them out. And that is arguably a way also for nature to potentially maintain balance. There's a word for it, but what I'm trying to say is, at no point did anyone revolt. Very rare are the instances where people looked at each other and they're like, that fucker.
Fuck that
off
guy.
with their heads. Like, very rare.
Yeah.
And those instances where they did do that are heavily documented because it's like, wow, the revolution of this, the revolt of that.
The French
spirit.
Revolution maybe was.
Obviously, but even way before. Like,
But
way
I think
before.
even the French Revolution had a lot of elitist
Yeah,
influence
scholars
in it.
as well. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
It is an elitist revolution.
100%.
It is
I
an
was
elitist
about to give that
revolution.
as an example when you're
still
talking
have-
about like
you still
the elite
have la
pulling
noblesse
people.
in
Yeah.
France, bro. You still have
Yeah.
the families of whatever.
All the
you know.
writers and scholars as well that played an important
Yeah,
role.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, but all of this to say, revolutions are rare. And arguably the revolutions that happened in the 20th and the 21st century combined equal the revolutions that happened over the past 3,400 years. That's how little we revolt. And again, religion played a very big role in responsibilizing misery by saying it's your fault. It's your fault. You are not good. I see that. Sometimes I navigate threads where, for instance, like I read about, like they did like a horrible thing happened to a prisoner and they have documented evidence of like the fact that he was like opened like with a
shiv.
with a screwdriver, like
Oh, fuck.
opened with a screwdriver, right? And And then sometimes I navigate the thread because I'm interested in what people have to say, right? Or for instance, like so and so house worker, like immigrant house worker in Lebanon was mistreated that way, and this happened, and I navigate the threads of her peers just to check what they're saying. It is amazing how much people just rely on divinity to take away, like God will make a retribution, God will punish, God save us, God. The powerlessness of that comes with misery is actually an insane problem. And by the way, that links directly into the widespread the widespread of conspiracy theories. It stems from powerlessness. So
you want to find a reason to blame.
Because religion is becoming a little bit more, like, I wouldn't say exposed. The very strict code of religion is starting to be
loosening up.
It's loosening up, but also it's starting to be chipped away little by little. So now you're just like, well, I can't say that, so I'm gonna go for the conspiracy theory because it salvages my powerlessness in another way, but it still instills anger in me, right? Like, it instills anger in me.
And it's not my fault.
And it's not and other people are, the reason why I'm a failure and the reason why I'm a miserable person, it's someone else.
It's someone else's fault, yeah. People never look at themselves and say, like, it's my fault.
Yeah, so, like, and the reason why and by the way, also, like I wasn't given the same opportunities, I wasn't given the same looks, I wasn't given the same money, I wasn't given the same charm, I wasn't given the same and that weighs so heavily that it becomes unlivable. So you go, well, that's because of the Illuminati. And then all of a sudden, you switch the problem into something else, but you become obsessed with that because you still need closure, but you're never going to get closure. So all you do is get angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier, and it's another religion. It's like another religion. So all of this to say that revolutions are rare. So why do they happen? They happen because the elites have decided that it's done.
But I do go back on your point real quick when you said, like, there were more revolutions that happened in 20th and 21st century than all the years before that. Is, wouldn't you say, because you have more people that were elite during that time period and more people that were educated, which made them to go up into more influential positions, that's why revolutions became more widespread during that short period of time?
So it's interesting. It's a very interesting point because, for instance, at the turn of the century, the entire world shifted and gave voting rights to women. Like that, like one after the other. It was spread out over 12 centuries. It literally happened over the course of 40 years, which is nothing. For centuries, women were subjugated before. Suddenly, right? And same thing with, like, slavery. For centuries, it was the most natural and normal thing to subjugate fellow humans as subhuman, and the black gene is an inferior gene, and the black gene is made to work for the white gene. Suddenly, like, all of a sudden, slavery was just like, it's a no-no. Like, you don't even dabble in that. Like, it's a no-go. It's a very interesting turn of enlightenment that started it, but it's also one of the most violent centuries in the history. No, it's, when I say we've been violent, but I mean that involved so many different people, because before there was always war ongoing, but it would be like pockets, right?
Yeah, smaller scale, basically.
Pockets. This was World War I, World War II, then the Cold War involved
we had so many proxy wars going on,
So the elites, if they're happy with the rulership, the rulership can go on for centuries. If the elites suddenly become unhappy for a reason or another, they overturn it overnight. Overnight, they can overturn it. That's the secret of the elites. Now, you say, great, you fomented a revolution. The revolution is occurring. Why do so many fail? The majority of revolutions fail. Shiane revolution. Let's define a revolution, okay? I'm going to pull up.
Webster Dictionary defines revolution.
So let me give you this definition: a process that intends to win power by a forcible overthrow, exactly, or rulership, in the name of social justice, to create new political institutions and restructure a country's polity, economy, society, and external relationships.
That's good.
So you want to win power by a forcible, by the way, it can be non-violent, it doesn't need to be violent, by a forcible overthrow of a government or rulership, okay? So, in the 20th century alone, so many Latin American countries revolted. Peru, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Guatemala, Uruguay, Venezuela, and then, of course, Cuba and Nicaragua, which are the only two that succeeded.
True.
All
actually.
the others failed. And people, like a small group of people who have wealth, education, social privilege, political power, will be the ones to foment every revolution, okay? Mostly as a result of having been alienated by the regime. So, Fidel Castro was a lawyer. Che Guevara was a medical doctor. And the founders of the Sandinistas in Nicaragua were all high-level university graduates. All. Majority of them were. That's how it works, right? That's how it starts. And then you pull the poor and the wretched and the miserable, you pull them. Anyway, you just pull them and you just say, mobilize and do this, and you can send them to their deaths, or maybe you don't, etc. But Cuba was the most developed Latin American country back then. And when Castro seized power, it was the most developed. Okay, but Haiti and Dominican Republic, the two poorest, never revolted. And they're the poorest.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Nicaragua yes, Honduras no. Yani,
Yeah.
it's brilliant
There's
to understand.
there's a
what it
pattern,
is.
yeah.
So one of the conditions, and I will explain at length in another talk, which I hope you will tune into. I'll give you the one of the main. There are three conditions to how a revolution succeeds, but one of the main ones is you are truly going against a dictatorship type of regime that has concentrated all the wealth and power within a small circle, and you chop off its head. So that is basically saying, do we agree كلن يعني كلن? If you say no, and you're part of the revolution, if you are not on board with كلن يعني كلن, it will never work.
And that's what happened.
And you don't want that to be a minority. You need that
And then again, some people like to say كلن يعني كلن, but it's like
بس حرام هيدا.
exactly. You know, he's not as guilty as the other one.
It's like
and
they're trying to democratize the
a
Fawda.
full
split them
cleanse.
into
You need like a
groups.
But
full fucking
the
cleanse.
issue is haram باسم شو. We're not decapitating them. We're not decapitating the kids. We're not saying like let us like bathe in their blood. We're only saying step down and let's take over. ما في حرام. It would be haram, and I will be the first one to say haram if we are literally killing them and their kids. I don't believe in violence. I personally don't believe in violence. مش إنه حرام, but I would stand firm. I stand firmly against murder type of violence. I stand firmly against that. But haram إنه I'm putting in the same basket this guy and this guy because that other guy is a lot more of a bigger thief. شو هالمنطق إنه you want to starve your kids, you want to shoot yourself in the kneecap, you want to literally be sick for the entire, just because you don't want them to be in the same basket? How is that affecting you on a personal level, the fact that I've put them in the same basket?
It's crazy, this shit. It's crazy, this shit.
لا بعدين أنا I've read a hashtag by somebody who is organizing revolution ما فشرته لا مش كلهم يعني كلهم.
I'm Jad.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, bro. I've seen
Because
so
a
many.
lot of people that usually comes from the front. أنا بقول لك that comes from the front of those who don't want people to conflate قوات مع عونية.
Yeah.
إنه لا العونية أضرب كتير من القوات.
Same
لا
fucking shit. Wow.
يعني I don't. That is. I cannot tell you how the last of your worries that should be. Who is more guilty
More
than
guilty,
who?
100%. I always say that,
Yeah.
and I always say like
They should be more legitimate because they're less guilty.
part of like the reason, part of the things that they do, these political entities, is that they make a lot of people who are through war to fight over. No, Hizb is worse. No, Jumblat is worse. And like, if there are certain people who are like, I'm more tied to these guys, then they get into an argument about who's worse, and then that starts breaking up the momentum.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Sara El Yafi, everyone asks you for your opinion, and you very much deliver on that. And we were lucky to get your opinion twice. So thank you very much.
And if you guys want to check out the rest of the episode, which is available on Anghami, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where Sara talks about the American elections and her experience in Harvard during the Israeli Mezza convention, please check out in the link below, and don't forget to subscribe.